Good afternoon. I'm Victoria Wright. I'm the Marketing and Outreach Coordinator for Department of Procurement Services, and this is the ABCs of DBE and ACDBE certification. So is everybody here for that workshop? And everybody should have signed in out there, taken the handouts. There's actually a I was about to say Schedule A, a DBE application, the evaluation, which I'll collect at the end, a flyer for our upcoming construction summit. So if you all are interested in DBE, I definitely recommend that you attend the construction summit. That's February 4th. That event is going to be all of our city departments that have construction, our sister agencies that have construction. So it's giving everybody an opportunity to find out what construction projects are coming out in 2016. So it'll be all the agencies there. You can ask the questions that you need. That'll be at South Shore Cultural Center on February 4th from 9 to 1. And the registration information is on the flyer. We also have our 2016 workshop schedule out, so if you haven't seen the entire schedule for the year and you want to plan to come back, the workshop schedule is out there. I do have to let you know that we are now live streaming all of our workshops to YouTube, so that's why we were busy trying to figure out where we should all be before we got started. But I just, so that you know, the camera's up here, it's not filming any of you. We will ask you to hold your questions to the end, because you could ask the question, Cordell will repeat your question so that people at home can hear the question as well. And for you and for people at home, to just let you know, you can find all of our PowerPoint presentations on our website. So you just go to www.cityofchicago.org/DPS events, and if you want a copy of the PowerPoint, you can find it there. Because it is on YouTube, we will start on time and end it on time. But if there's still questions, myself or Cordell will be here to answer your questions, and I will collect your evaluations at the end. So I'm going to turn it over to Cordell McGarry, who is a certification officer, and he does audits. So he has all the answers, all the DBE answers, right?
I try.
Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Cordell. I'm going to thank you guys for coming out in the cold today.
Yes.
I was worried
Yes.
that I was going to have to pull some people in off the street. So I'm glad we got a good enough crowd today. So thank you, and I'll turn it over to Cordell.
And good afternoon, everybody. Glad that you were able to make it. And as Victoria said, we know it's cold out there, so we thank you for persevering. We're going to talk a little bit about the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program and the Airport Concessions Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program. They're both programs by the federal government. We affectionately refer to them as the DBE and ACDBE programs, and we're going to try to go over those programs with you today. Our goal is to talk about the program requirements, the certification process, as well as the touch on the application a little bit and the benefits of being certified as a DBE and ACDBE with the City of Chicago. And moving from there, once you're certified, of course, the world is at your feet. To begin with, let's begin with the mission statement for our department, Department of Procurement Services. We are the contracting authority for the procurement of all the goods and services for the City of Chicago. That could be from fire trucks to stationery, to gloves and supplies, the whole gamut. When items are purchased by the City of Chicago, our department's involved in that. With that in mind, we pledge to work together as a team and with our customers, being the users, to guarantee an open, fair, and timely process. We strive to establish, communicate, and enforce superior business practices in all things that we do. We feel that integrity, public trust, and the law are our guiding principles in that regard. The program itself, the DB and ACDB program, it started with the federal government. We are a recipient of federal dollars that are received from the U.S. Department of Transportation. Those dollars are generally used for transportation purposes. Could be road building, could be airport support services that help to make these things happen. As a recipient of those federal dollars, we are bound to by federal regulations to have a program to help to create a level playing field for the opportunities for participation in our program. The DB program is designed to ensure the non-discrimination and the award and administration of Department of Transportation or Federal Aviation Administration assisted contracts in the department's highway, transit, airport financial assistance programs, and our concessionaire programs at the airport. We endeavor to create a level playing field in which all businesses, large or small, can participate and compete fairly for those contract opportunities. And that's what our program is about. The program provides guidance for the participation of firms that are certified as DBEs in those federally funded contract opportunities. Again, I mentioned earlier that the program is governed under federal regulations. We call those regulations Chapter 49, Code of Federal Regulations, Part 26 and 23. Those are the guiding regulations that govern the DBE and ACDBE programs. It basically states that a business concern, in order to be considered eligible, must be a small business for profit, which is at least 51% owned by one or more socially and economically disadvantaged people, and the management of those businesses are controlled by one or more of those people that are deemed to be socially and economically disadvantaged. For purposes of definition, we talk about airport concessions. It goes a little bit beyond just operating a store or a concession at an airport. A concession can also include a business that provides consultation services, management operations, goods and services, or advertising to a concessionaire as well. So if you were, let's say, a consultant and you chose to consult with a business that's operating at the airport, you can be considered as an ACDBE as well. The process for certification involves not only being a small business, but being socially and economically disadvantaged. And we define that category of individuals or people by being one or more of Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, Native Americans, subcontinent Asian Americans, Asian Pacific Americans, and women. Now, from time to time, there are other individuals who may not fall into those categories who may wish to be considered for certification as a DBE and ACDBE, and they're welcome to apply. They have to be able to prove that they've been a victim of social and economic disadvantage, and it's done on a case-by-case basis. In addition to qualifying as a member of a group socially and economically disadvantaged, and you also have to be considered a small business. We define small business under our two programs by what's considered to be a 3-year average of gross receipts that pertains to a business operations over a 3-year period. And what I mean by that is, for like DBEs, for example, businesses are certified in an area of specialization. So, for example, if I was a contractor or plumber per se, the SBA has developed size standards for what would constitute a small business operating as a plumber. Those size standards are defined, and it's part of a group. It's nationally published by the SBA, and it may be, let's say, a given dollar amount. So, for example, if I was a plumber, my size standard to be considered a small business might be to not exceed gross sales averaged over 3 years at $7 million. Which means that if as long as my gross sales over a 3-year period does not exceed that amount, I'm considered a small business. And that amount will vary depending on the type of business that you're involved in or the type of industry that you're involved in. So for certain types of professional services like engineers, the amount may be lower or higher. But the SBA publishes a guideline for that purpose. For the ACDBE program, the number is a flat number, and it's quite higher. The 3-year average gross sales receipts is not to exceed $56.42 million, period, averaged over 3 years. The only exceptions would be for certain car rental firms or banks or businesses much like that. That amount is higher than the other standard for DBE, and that's based on the investment that many concessionaires have to make when they go into an airport. In addition to the business size standard, individual owners that are looking to be certified must not exceed a personal net worth standard. That net worth standard basically is set again by the federal government, and that number right now is $1.32 million. And what I'm referring to when I refer to personal net worth is I'm referring to your personal assets less your personal liabilities, and excluding certain things like your home and maybe your business equity. So in the event that your personal net worth exceeds $1.32 million, you're not considered to be economically disadvantaged and wouldn't be eligible for the program. So let me ask right now, are we all pretty much under $1.32 million? Okay, good to go. Okay, so Once you've kind of met those qualifying steps, then the next step is obvious. You need to apply. And what we want to do to get you started in that, and we've made it really easy here. We've actually have a site online at www.chicago.mwdbe.com where you can actually apply online. Effective January 1st of this year, as a matter of fact, we stopped taking paper applications unless there's extreme circumstances. But we do encourage you to do online. It's quite a simple process. It provides everyone with a documented record of the application as well as supporting information, which you can actually upload as part of the online process itself. So it's quite simple. You go to the online location I just gave you. You do the application on hand. You have approximately 90 days to actually complete the application online, so you don't have to do it at one time. You can start again, upload documents that you would need to support the application, and submit it. And that's a real quick and easy way to do it. We get it right away, and we'll assign it to someone for processing. As part of the application process, there is an on-site interview that needs to occur. It's required under federal regulations, and we will come out to visit you, interview the owners of the business. In some cases, we may take pictures of the operation, depending on what it is you do, and we actually get a chance to see you in your environment. And I think that's a real important part for us to understand what it is you do. Businesses, again, are certified by their area of specialization, so we look at basically your understanding of your business to help us determine whether or not that's something that you can actually manage and control, which is an important part of the process itself. So, in addition to the application itself, the physical application, supporting documents that you would need to submit with the application, and the list you see above is just some of them, is evidence of citizenship. You have to be a legal resident of the United States or a citizen in order to be considered for certification in our program. If you own a business, we expect that you've made an investment in that business, and so we look to get evidence of the proof of your ownership, of your contribution to either acquire or start your business. Depending on the type of organization that you set up, we may need additional information. Common forms of ownership of a business could be sole proprietorship, a corporation, partnership, limited liability company, as well as a corporation. And depending on that type of business that you've organized yourself under, you may need to provide additional information. For example, a corporation would need to provide articles of incorporation, bylaws, and evidence of ownership that's done by stock. One of the more common forms of ownership right now is LLC, or limited liability corporation, in which case you would need to provide us evidence of that organizational structure, which can include your operating agreement, articles of organization, and membership certificates that would identify the owners of that type of business, to give you an idea. Proprietorship is probably the simplest form of organization in that it generally just requires your presence in the business. In the event that you're operating in a name other than your own, you may need to provide us with an assumed name certificate that establishes you as doing business in that particular name. Other information that we would look for would be compensation of the owners, and we look for evidence of that in the form of W-2s or 1099 forms that you may have been paid throughout the course of your business ownership, or even before you actually started your business, just to get a sense for basically your source of income. But it also helps us in the event that you worked in an area before you actually began to seek employment or go out on your own. Some of the other things we look for would be basically 3 years of signed U.S. federal tax returns. We look at that information as being important to, again, determine your gross sales. We look at your gross sales figures over the 3-year periods. We're looking at what you reported on your federal income tax returns. In the event that you're a startup business and you don't have the information available, that's okay. We do certify startups. We just need you to provide information noting that you're a startup and this information is not available. If you're an ongoing concern, we may ask for financial statements. Again, that would be the business balance sheet and profit and loss statements for the business itself. And of course, we also ask for 3 years of signed U.S. individual income tax returns. And in the case of all tax returns, we're looking for attachments and schedules that make up the return itself. Okay. So again, I mentioned on-site review earlier. Again, that's something that's required under federal regulations. We are required to make that on-site visit to the offices of the firm seeking DBE certification. We can look at, if you're certified in another state, for example, as a DBE, we can rely upon that site visit, but if you're in the state of Illinois, we're probably going to come out and pay you a visit. In most cases, we'll give you an advance notice, so that we'll make sure that you're there. In very rare cases, it can't happen. We may come unannounced to your business. Okay. So in kind of going over to summarize the points I've talked about, I know I've kind of went through them fast. We're looking at ownership of the business. You have to be at least 51% in ownership and control of the business. And what I mean by 51%, as a minority or a disadvantaged individual, that ownership should constitute at least 51%. It could be a combination of individuals or it could just be one, but you have to have at least the majority ownership, and that's defined at 51%. You have to be a member of a disadvantaged group of people or economically disadvantaged, and that group would consist of, again, African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Native Americans, again, women, groups like that, Asia Pacific, and also other Pacific Asians would be considered as being disadvantaged. On a case-by-case basis, if you don't fall into any of those categories, you can make an individual request to be considered, and it will be done on a case-by-case basis. We look at the business size of the business. Again, you have to be considered a small business, and we look at that as defined by the SBA size standards, by the type of business or industry that you're involved in. Your personal net worth, excluding the value of your home and your business itself, shouldn't exceed $1.32 million. We look at the areas of independence and control. I mentioned again, businesses are certified by an area of specialization. We look at control being as part of the ownership, but we also look at your knowledge and ability to manage your business. So again, if I'm certifying as a plumber, I should be able to provide you with evidence of my ability, my knowledge and my skills in that particular field, and my ability to control the activity that I'm involved in itself. At the end of the day, the burden of proof for all of this is going to be on the applicant, so that's why we ask for the documentation, and we encourage you to tell a story about your business so that we can help understand that. Okay, so the benefits of being certified with the City of Chicago as a DBE or ACDBE. Well, the most important one is there's no fee. It's a free application. It's a free process. Some of our programs do require an application fee. There is none with the federal programs. Certification as a DBE or ACDBE provides opportunities for participation in U.S. DOT or FAA federally funded contracts, not just with the City of Chicago, but with the Chicago Transit Authority, Illinois Department of Transportation, Metra, and PACE. All the agencies I mentioned are recipient of grant funds, and we are mandated to have a DBE program. We're also mandated to do it under the premise of one-stop shopping, so that once you're certified with any of those agencies, you're automatically certified with all of them and can participate in those contract opportunities as they come about. And that's a good thing. So we also have a unique relationship with a number of agencies that work with the city, assist agencies, some local chambers of commerce, and industry association firms to assist us in providing services to small businesses. Being certified with the City of Chicago gives you access to those groups itself. And the program itself, we feel it goes a long way to demonstrate our commitment as a city to supply diversity and the success of minority and women-owned businesses itself. The process itself overall in terms of application to certification could average approximately 90 days or more depending on the circumstances, primarily the completeness of the application and its complexity. I also throw in the fact that there's a little bit of seasonality that you have to consider too. I mean, there's certain times of the year where we have let's say a larger number of applications than other times of the year. And of course, that can have an impact on the processing time. But we endeavor to try to give you a decision in approximately 90 days or so itself. So once you're certified as a DBE, you're pretty much certified indefinitely. You're certified for, I want to say for life. Or until circumstances occur whereby you're no longer eligible. And probably that would be when you become so successful that you're no longer considered a small business, or you become so wealthy that your net worth exceeds $1.32 million, in which case we think that we've done our job and we congratulate you and wish you well. If there's a change in ownership, that could also be another reason why you may be subject to a review and could be decertified, but technically you're certified indefinitely. The only caveat to that is that you would need to, on an annual basis, provide us with what we call a no-change affidavit, where you're submitting information that attests to the fact that the conditions upon which you were certified really hasn't changed. In other words, the ownership composition is still the same, that we're still more or less considered a small business, we're still in control, there's been no change in those factors. So if you do that on a regular basis, you can be certified for indefinitely. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we provide one-stop certification. Once you're certified as a DBE, you're certified with 4 other agencies. That's IDOT, Metra, PACE, and CTA. We also, basically like to talk about the fact that you can sign up for alerts that are provided by both the Department of Procurement Services and the Department of Aviation to alert your contracting opportunities with the City of Chicago. So I encourage you to go to our website, cityofchicago.org, and go to the Department of Procurement Services. Once you get to that link, you can apply for or subscribe to rather DPS alerts, and it's a great feature. Among being alerted to contract opportunities as they come about, we also provide you information regarding workshops. Victoria mentioned the upcoming contractors workshop we have on February 4th, and information is published routinely on the DPS alerts. We also publish a buying guide that's done on a quarterly basis. You also have access to that buying guide, which is a forecast of potential procurement opportunities that we may be endeavoring. And that buying guide generally provides a forecast for up to a year, so it kind of gives you a heads up on what's coming down the pike before it actually gets there. So it's a great little resource to tap into, and we encourage you to sign up for the DPS alerts. We provide you with a list of agencies also through the DPS Alerts network that provides assistance to the DBE firms. These assist agencies I mentioned earlier, commonly known as chambers of commerce, certain industry associations, are available to provide you with assistance in business development, as well as any questions you have regarding the application process itself. Okay. So in a nutshell, that's the Department of the Procurement Services. That's the DBE and ACDBE program. Thank you for indulging me and listening to me now. I want to hear from you. You have any questions?
The assist agencies. Do you know of any agencies that assist you with bidding, with actual bid process?
Well, the assist agencies can provide you, walk you through the process. Now, the extent of the assistance they may give you might vary from agency to agency. But 2 that I can think of offhand, the Chatham Business Association, South Shore Chamber of Commerce would be 2 that come to mind. Certain construction industry groups may also be of assistance to you. HACIA, again, so Hispanic American Industry, and I forget the acronym, forgive me. Construction. Yes, thank you so much. As well as the Black Contractors United, groups like that can provide you with assistance. Okay, so as I understand your question, the question pertains to having already been certified in another category, like under our MBE program, and now you're seeking to be certified as a DBE and wants to know whether or not you need to resubmit the documents. And I'm going to tell you, unfortunately, yes, you will have to do that. The MBE program is a local program, is governed under local ordinance and regulations. The DBE and ACDBE program is a federal program, and is governed under federal regulations, and they're kept separate for that reason. So you would have to do that. Pardon me. Effective January 1, 2016, the department began to, and we're going paperless, began to require that applicants submit applications online. There must be extenuating circumstances in order for us to consider doing a paper application. Yes, sir?
Yeah, I was certified another company with the City of Chicago as a DBE and I've since started another company. The other company I retired from. Now, can I use that experience? And it's my background experience. It's going to be basically the same type of industry that I'll be working in and promoting. So would I be able to use that as my background experience?
Okay, so again, understanding your question, you were formerly certified with another company. That you've since retired from that company. You're starting another company that's doing pretty much the same thing. and you want to know whether or not you can use the experience from one company to another. Well, experience and the skills that you've gotten from that company or any other endeavor, if it lends itself to what you're trying to do, I would most certainly use it. I mean, there's no difference between working 20 years, let's say, in accounting for a Fortune 500 firm and then starting out on my own as an independent. The experience I got while working as an independent certified accountant is what's key here.
Okay. The other question I have is regarding boundaries. As far as DBE, I know the MBE program has boundaries of 7 counties, let's say the 5 counties, restricted to 5 counties. Is there a restriction on the DBE location of incorporation?
Okay, so your question pertains to whether or not there are any geographical boundaries with respect to the DBE program. I will say yes and no. And what I mean by that is that technically there aren't any boundaries. It's a national program, so you can be certified virtually anywhere. Let's say in any state. You can be certified in multiple states. But technically you should be certified in your home state first if you're going to another state. So with that in mind, the certification that we're offering here through the city of Chicago would be good through the state, so throughout the state. So you can be certified as a DBE and work anywhere in a state that offers an opportunity for a DBE. If you chose to be certified in another state, you'd need to go through an application process with them, but they would take into account your certification record with this state. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
I am currently certified with PACE, and so there's no necessary paperwork to be recognized by the city of Chicago as a DBE. All that is combined. That's just one process.
Okay, so you're certified with PACE as a DBE. You're certified with the city as a DBE automatically. If you chose to participate, let's say as an airport concession or as an ACDBE and you don't already have that certification, PACE would be considered your host agency, and you can actually get that expansion through PACE. So you don't have to come to the city at all. No. So one other thing I didn't mention that wasn't in the presentation was, again, businesses are certified in an area of specialization. So I used the example of a plumber, right, for example. Let's say I've worked in the business now for 5 years or so, or a little while, and I want to expand my opportunities. So I go out and take another trade. I take up electricity, or I go to maybe school and get an engineering degree. You could always expand your certification to cover the additional skill sets that you obtain. And we do that by way of expansion. You can do that at any time. So you're certified in an area of specialization, but that area of specialization, as you grow, you can expand your certification to cover that as well. And that's normally done by just providing us with a written request for expansion. You would provide evidence of your skills and abilities or your skill sets in the field that you're seeking to get expanded to. Yes, sir.
If you desire to subcontract to another, maybe not a specific agency, as long as they're licensed and bonded, can you do that under the certification?
So I think your question as it pertains to working as a subcontractor for another contractor?
Or someone else, after you are certified, can you sub out some of the work to other contractors?
Well, that's more of a compliance question than a certification question, but I'll try to answer the question. So you're saying as a DBE, can I subcontract a portion of my work out? Technically, you can, but keep in mind that if you're bidding on a contract, the circumstances would be reviewed. Now, if you're on a contract, and let's say that the portion of the work that I'm controlling or doing is done by myself as a DBE, and you want to subcontract a portion of that out, it would be preferable if you did it with another DBE. If you subcontract it out to a non-minority, then that may cause you some problems with regard to the contract. Again, we're certifying you based on your participation in the contract and the portion of the work that you're doing that's being controlled by your business, which is disadvantaged. If you rely on someone that's not disadvantaged to do the work, then they may raise questions about your control. So really your question pertains to our MBE programs, but I'll take a moment to try to answer it for you. So your question is that the city and the county has a reciprocal certification program. We recognize one another's certifications as an MBE. So basically, if you're an MBE or a WBE with the city, then the county recognizes your certification. So in your case, your question is that I'm certified with the county, and you want to seek an expansion of your skill set to include some other things. So you're certified by the county. Would the city honor that or recognize that? And my answer would be yes. If the county granted your certification in that category, we would, yeah. So keep in mind, in this case, the agency that you began with is your host agency. That's the agency that manages the relationship. The reciprocality is that we recognize that certification. We don't require you to go through the process over again. We recognize that certification and participating on our contract opportunities.
It doesn't matter whether or not it's county and you dealing with the federal government. It's okay to do that because I'm going to be certified too. I was wondering. So I was told that I had to get my DBE if I wanted to deal with the city.
Okay. Your question was whether or not you need to be certified as an MBE. You are MBE, and you want to know whether or not you can participate on DBE contracts. Okay. In that sense, you would have to apply for DBE certification. The city has 5 certification programs, and it's possible for you as a small business, if you qualify, to be certified in all 5 programs. I mean, there's no restriction that says that if I'm certified as an MBE, I can't be certified as a DBE, or if I'm a DBE, I can't be an ACDBE. It's a question of the opportunities. Like again, the DBE and ACDBE programs relate to contract opportunities involving federal dollars, and you're being able to participate in those opportunities. Our MBE and WBE programs pertain to contract opportunities involving local dollars that comes out of the city's corporate budget, for example, and your ability to be able to participate in those opportunities. From time to time, you may see opportunities that may cover a variety of different funding sources. So you want to be in position to actually take advantage of that. And to that end, all of the certification programs, MBE, WBE, DBE, ACDBEs, are basically tools. They're tools that it's good to have. When the opportunity comes about, you're ready, you're prepared to deal with it. You don't have to go through the hassle of trying to apply for an opportunity and then you find out you don't have the regular certification because you're certified somewhere else. So it's good to apply for as many things that you feel that you can. Of course, now if you're applying for WBE, you should be owned and controlled by as a woman. I mean that's Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Well, I thank you guys for coming. Appreciate you coming out in this cold weather. I know, more than the ocean. Hopefully, if you have any other questions, I'll give you our number. We're the Department of Procurement Services. My name is Cordell McGarry, and our number is 312-744-4900. And that's a number you can reach on the entire certification team. There are about 5 of us who are available to answer any questions or to work with you in any way that we can to see that you get what you need. Okay. And I thank you so much. Leave it. No problem. Yes. Once you're certified as a DBE with any of the agencies, you're certified automatically for all of us. Right. No problem. Take care.
I actually live in Chatham. I've heard a lot about Chatham
Business Association?
Business Association.
They're a great group.
I've yet to go by there, but that's my next move to go by there.
Well, let me, Kelly,